And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Katherine King, who encountered her uncle at the steps of heaven during her near-death experience, and today we're going to talk about it. Katherine, thank you so much for being my guest today, and welcome.
Thank you for having me on and letting me share my story.
All right, if you don't mind, let's start on the day that your NDE happened and go from there.
Yeah, that day was, Wisconsin summers is where I'm from. They get really hot and really miserable, and we were living upstairs in an apartment. And we had no AC unit at the time. And I was pregnant with my second daughter. And I was laying in bed, which is usually where all my NDEs seem to start and end, I guess. But I was laying in bed, and then I was feeling really, really sick. And next thing I know, I'm drifting up. And then I had stopped, and there was these stairs, and they only looked like 4 or 5 steps or whatever, but there was these stairs, and then it was like the clear heavenly background of the stairs, and then it was like all white, bright. And then I had actually seen my Uncle Bill on the right side of me, and then to the left side there was actually this huge yellow light, and it was pretty much taken over almost the stairs and and the background and stuff. And then I was talking to my Uncle Bill, and I was so excited to see him, and I was so happy because he had actually passed on of multiple myeloma back in the 80s. And this was like back in 90, I think she was born in 95, so this was in 95. And I was talking to him, and he was holding my hands, and I was all excited to see him, and I was catching up on everything going on down here. And he was happy to see me. And then I started seeing these people walk to this big yellow, almost like a sun or something on the left side. And the closer they walked, then all of a sudden they would just disappear. I couldn't see them anymore. And then I was like, well, Uncle Bill, it's been fun, but I says, I got to get going. And just as I said, I got to get going, he dropped his head, and he's like, no, he's shaking his head, no. And then I got really mad, and I'm just like, what do you mean, no? I mean, it's beautiful. I want to go. It's a great place here. I said, and I got really upset with him. And next thing I know, it's almost like I tried to go through an invisible wall. Or I don't know if you have seen videos of, when people walk into patio doors and they smack into them, kind of bounce off. Well, I probably looked like that too. And I ended up, then right after that, I ended up back in my body. And I was so mad. And I was like, why would Uncle Bill hold me back from such a beautiful place? Why couldn't I go? And then, because he was hanging on to my hands. So I thought, well, he's hanging on to my hands that he had held me back. But then I thought back, and I could actually physically feel like the left side of my head, my shoulder, and the left side of my thigh kind of sore. But come to find out, it was like this huge wall that actually held me back. It wasn't him. And and then when I came to, I was still really sick. And then my muscles, my arms and legs were almost like convulsing. They were kind of like, I don't know, like contracting or something like that. They would relax and tighten, so I knew something was really wrong. So then I ran down by my mom, because she lived in the downstairs apartment, and I sat down, and my legs and arms were doing that. And she started really spazzing out. She knew something was wrong, and here I was, I don't know, 6-7 months pregnant or something like that. So she was worried about me, and she was worried about the baby, and she had called the hospital, and they told her to bring me in and stuff like that. And then she brought me in. They ended up admitting me, and then I got hooked up to IVs and heart monitors, and they were trying to check the baby to make sure the baby was fine. And it was pretty scary because I had a 2-year-old, probably also. So, then I was in the hospital for like a couple of days, and they had released me. So, but the only thing is, though, is like, I don't know, because I didn't, get through the walls, or I didn't go into the city and all this stuff. But a lot of times when somebody would talk about heaven, my mind would flash to a meadow and like this little walk bridge This crystal clear water and just sparkling beautiful. So I don't know if I actually went farther into the NDE and I didn't realize it, or I don't know if I was really outside of the gates of heaven, or was I in heaven? I mean, all I saw was steps and this big yellow light, and then my uncle. So it's possible I was in heaven, I guess. And then like if somebody talked about schools in heaven, my mind would flash that I was in this school learning. And but what's kind of weird is like heaven has this different atmosphere than what we do. Everything in heaven is all white. I mean, everything, the walls, the floors, it just seems like white everywhere I looked. And then there was this, I don't know if you see these windows that they come out in like a half circle type windows. And I was sitting there and I was looking out into the sky, and there was like these beautiful big blue sky and the stars. It could actually touch the stars. So, I think I was actually in the city. Because I mean, every time somebody would bring up heaven, my mind would jump there to whatever place they talked about. So, and at the time, I mean, I've been a medium pretty much since I was 2, but every time I would end up with an NDE or something crazy like that happening to me, my gifts would start getting stronger. And then it was kind of like a computer upgrade that I had to keep adjusting to every time things would get stronger and stronger. So sometimes it was scary, but...
Well, thank you for sharing your experience with us, Katherine. Now, when you say you saw a city, did you see like a city with skyscrapers and buildings and everything?
What I actually keep seeing is like, I don't know if I look down a lot when I walk, but I actually kept seeing cobblestone floor grounds that, like we were outside. And I mean, I kept seeing these old buildings, and these old buildings had this like old energy too. And it sounds a little weird, but almost like I could almost smell the old energy. It was almost like a melting pot, or how you have when you cook a lot of food, like cast iron have this almost like melting pot feeling, or I don't know if I can't say melting pot, but like a seasoning. You could feel this energy of like so many souls, and it felt old, and it felt comfortable, and it felt peaceful. It felt like there's like no negativity. Everybody felt happy. We all felt safe. It was beautiful though, and then there is, I mean, like I said, it's like the minute somebody would say anything about heaven, my mind kept jumping to different things in heaven.
Mm-hmm. Did you see any beings walking around in heaven?
When I was in the school part, I saw people walking around or sitting in the classroom.
What do you think they were teaching at the school?
Probably everything that we need to learn here. We need to learn love, patience. Well, you don't need to always learn love, but I mean, how to love easier, how to have more patience, how to interact with people better. And that's the thing too, like every time I'd have these NDEs, I started changing. I stopped criticizing people. I stopped, well, not like criticizing, you pick up a lot of old habits through school and through having siblings, and, you pick up a lot of these bad habits. But I did, I don't criticize nowhere near as much. Now I try to find out, why they acted a certain way, why they said what they did, instead of trying to judge them for, being in the, what they've done. I actually try and figure out what they did. And then a lot of times too, like if they did something to somebody, it's like I'm kind of stand back and I'm like, well, okay, so let me hear 2 sides of the story, because instead of being quick to judge that person, I got to try to find out what the other person did to them. And then that's when I actually make my, decision on, what they did or why they did it, but I mean, before I'd just be quick to snap, like, why would you do that? Or, but I mean, I've gotten a lot better with that, with trying to understand people more.
And what other ways did you change after that experience?
I looked at things like, this is only temporary, so if anything's bothering me, it'd be like, well, you know what, they always say, there's an old saying that if I died tomorrow, would it really matter? And it probably doesn't. Or I just started becoming a better person. I mean, I started becoming more caring, more giving. And then it seemed, I don't know if it was like an NDE gift, but one thing that I also kind of like brought back with me is I could actually start physically feeling other people's pain. That's when I was telling you about with my sister Dawn. Because her and I were talking on the internet on Messenger, and then all of a sudden my right knee just started to throb, because I know I shared that email with you, and my right knee just started to throb. And I told Dawn, I said, and I know it wasn't me because I was sitting down, so I shouldn't have any pain whatsoever. And I asked her, I said, this sounds kind of crazy, but I said, did you hurt your knee? Because I said, every time I talk to you, my knee starts to throb. And then I can't remember what the email was, but I think she said, yeah, she was trying to give a bull a shot or something, and the bull kicked her, and now she's going to do acupuncture. But sometimes I do kind of accidentally freak people out with that, because they look at me like, how'd you know? But it's just because I can actually physically feel other people's pain where I never really could before.
That's amazing.
That's kind of good and bad though, because like when they're hurting, there's my daughter and I went to drop some clothes off at a women's shelter, and so just as I tried to drop the clothes off, there's a lady outside the women's shelter, and she was really crying and and upset because she was in a bad way, and then I gave her money, a bottle of water, whatever it was. But it's like I get back in the car and I'm crying just as bad, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is not even my pain. So why is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
But so it can be good and bad.
You mentioned that you're a medium. Were you a medium before your first NDE, or not until after it happened?
Well, my grandma was actually a medium, but in her time, she didn't really talk about it because she'd be like 90 or 100 by now or something. And then she said when she had actually found out that I was a medium, she said that it helped her because she didn't feel so alone, because there's not a whole lot of mediums around in our area, especially in our little small city. And but at like 2 years old is when my mom started noticing there's something different about me. For one, I always had a thing with cars. Like I always knew if someone was going to go out on the car, and it kept getting stronger and stronger. Like a lot of times, there's one story. My Aunt Betty was going to take us to Dairy Queen, all of us, and then my mom and us kids and her kids, and they tried to put me into a car, and I just started screaming my head off. Wanted nothing to do with this car ride, Dairy Queen. Ice cream didn't faze me, I guess. So then my mom said, well, if Kate can't go, then nobody can go. So my Aunt Betty decided to go anyway, and to try to get the ice cream. And either on the way there or on the way back, her vehicle had actually hit a gravel pit. It flipped the car over. And when the police had arrived, the back seats were so tore up. They said if there would have been anybody back there, any children or whatever, they would have been gone.
Wow. So
that's kind of scary. So, after that, my mom knew. And then a lot of times I would just know things before they would happen. And sometimes I would actually scare my mom too. She would call me a freaky kid, and she just didn't really actually know how to handle it.
And so after each NDE or each spiritual experience that you had, your medium powers grew stronger?
Mm-hmm. It was almost kind of like they stayed stagnant for a while, and then all of a sudden they would just accelerate after an NDE. And excuse me. And sometimes that would actually kind of scare me, because, it'd be just like, where did that come from? Or how did this, how was this new thing happening? Or, what caused this? Or, if something's different of you, you're going to try and figure out what is going on and why was this happening? Or, and then you try to figure it out. And so I did actually have another ND too. I had 2 of them.
All right. What happened?
Okay, that one was really hard. There was something had actually tore in my stomach area, and like something in my stomach and hip muscles or something. And I had gotten really sick. I couldn't walk Walmart. I couldn't eat solid food. I was eating baby food because anytime I ate solid food, I threw it up. Excuse me, I lost like 30 pounds that month. You know, I was just really sick, and I kept getting thrown through test after test and stuff. And then one night I was laying in bed, and you know, I was asking God, and I was asking my family, and to try and help me, because I mean, nothing was working. And then I floated up again, and I had seen this like really huge gate. I like just, you know, just a monster gate, and then it had the cement walls alongside it, and then I had actually seen Jesus standing next to me, and I saw my family on the other side of this gate. And then Jesus had said that my family was going to take the pain away, or try to help take some of the pain away of losing them and missing them. And you know, because even though I'm a medium, I know about the life chart. I know when I know who you marry when you have children. I know who you pick, all this stuff. I get that. But, you know, and I know when your time is up, you're going to go, and I understand all that. But as a person and feelings, that's when I struggled. You know, I mean, even though you try, you know, you understand all these things, still you feel lonely, you feel sad and things. And but anyway, so I seen my family on the other side of this gate. I saw my mom, and then I saw my grandma, that was my mom's mom. I saw those two for sure. The other ones I couldn't exactly make out who they were. And you know, but the thing is, they said that they were going to take some of the pain of missing me, or me missing them and stuff, and taking that away. And they did. And then all of a sudden I saw them start to walk away from me. And then I wanted to follow. And again, this invisible wall or something held me back. But this time it wasn't actually that bad, because I mean, I wasn't mad. I understood the procedure now after the first one. You know, it was kind of sad though to see them go again. But then after that though, like, is with my gift and being a medium, I mean, it's like kind of like you picture you have these two curtains, and you can only open like a little bit of the curtains, and you can see a little bit in the area. That's where my medium skills were at. I could just see a little bit. And then after that NDE, it was like the curtains just blew wide open. And it seems like I can actually see the other side just as well as I can see this side. I can see you just as well as I can see a spirit. I can just totally describe them. And so, you know, I mean, it just kind of blew the curtains wide open. So it amped up my skills again.
When you're looking into the other side, do you have to like meditate or go into a certain mindset to be able to do that?
Not really, but I'm a trance medium. And I do actually know, I didn't realize I had remote viewing capability, but I have that too. But it just seems like all I have to do is think, or if somebody will say something, then my mind will actually jump to where it's supposed to go. Because like with my husband and I, like, 30 years ago or whatever, he was talking about some military post that he was on. And it flashed into my mind, and I saw all these army barracks. I saw the tank, I saw this, and I saw that. And then I said, oh, did you mean when you were in Oklahoma? I don't even know what post it was, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And he said, yeah. And now he was at this post even before we met. And and he said, well, if you go to the right, what would you see? Well, the hospital. Or if you go to the left, what will you see? Will you see a tank, or, you know, like things like that. Never knew I had that kind of capability or skill until he actually brought it. He was starting to talk about it, and then it started flashing in my mind. So I never knew I had that.
Did these things start flashing in your mind too much where you had to shut it down, or no?
And when I'm driving, yeah. So like if I'm driving a car, or if I'm trying to function, then yeah. If I'm sitting, then it's usually not too bad, and I just kind of write out whatever is trying to show me.
When you're being shown something, do you see it like a daydream, or do you see it like it's real as this 3D world?
Like I'm really there. There was a time I lay down in bed, I closed my eyes, and next thing I know, I was in a lower level of this world. and it was almost like it's like it's like just right underneath your feet, where you can almost see like a clear glass, floor, and you could see down. But I was in this lower level, and then I seen people walking around. I seen cobblestone road again, and then everything seemed very dark and kind of like cavern-like, or I don't know, like the ancient time, like the old times or whatever, when they had castles and cobblestone floors. And I'm standing there, and then all of a sudden there was like a spirit guide. I mean, I don't think I had an NDE or anything like that, but there was a spirit guide, and they said, you need to turn your light down because it's the entities down here, would attack you, or you're not safe down here. So I don't know why I ended up down there or how I ended up down there, but he said, you have to squish your light. So, and then like one thing that had happened to me when I was 7 years old, I had actually seen Jesus. Speaking of squishing the light, I had seen Jesus. I grew up poor, and I had to sleep with two of my other sisters, in one bed, and then because we didn't have enough room, so we had to all sleep in the same bed. And I was sleeping there, and I woke up. I didn't even wake up. It felt like I was just up, and I saw Jesus standing on the side of my bed, and I had launched into his arms, and I was just talking a mile a minute. It was almost like because it was like, I don't know how you say, I knew him really well, and I was very excited that he was there. I launched in his arms. I'm talking a mile a minute. I'm being goofy and I'm being silly, and he's laughing and stuff. And then I was raised strict Catholic, so we had this little statue that had water in, and then you dip your finger in there, and then you do the sign of the cross. And I was telling him about that, and I was just so excited and so happy that he was actually there, and that I could talk to him and I could see him. And then I asked him, I said, can I wake my sister Amy up so that she can see you too? And he's like, no, he said, I can't. And next thing I know, I'm in my bed. I'm waking up. I woke up, and then once I woke up, I'm looking around. I'm even looking around for him. Like, where did he go? And I know he was here. But the thing is, like with me, I mean, when I had seen Jesus, he didn't have the bright lights and da-da-da. It's almost like he toned his light down, and it was almost kind of like he could actually blend into our world. We wouldn't even know he's here.
Do you remember what he looked like?
The robe, he had a robe, and he had sandals, the long hair. It's like I knew him, and the weird thing about it is it felt like he was coming down, kind of like, say, if you would go check on, if you would start missing your child, even if you could see them, that's great, but it was like he wanted to interact with me. It was like he wanted to not only check on me, but kind of, like get me time or whatever, like he wanted, like you do with a child, you always want to hug them and talk to them and, and interact with them. And that's exactly what it felt like he wanted to do with me. Like he'd missed that interaction.
So this happened when you were 7 years old. Did anything happen before that? Is it possible you had an NDE as a baby or a child?
Well, see, I'm wondering about that too, because when I was a baby, I actually had failure to thrive. Basically, I didn't gain any weight. I was actually, they say that you I don't know if you really, everything shuts down, but it was serious. It was, my mom had to, like start me on baby food, like really fast, and chronic doctor appointments. And, so I'm thinking maybe that kickstarted my gifts, because I have 3 other sisters and they don't have the gift as strong.
Now, did you say after your first NDE, your shoulder was sore from actually walking into that invisible wall?
Well, it didn't feel like my shoulder was sore. It just felt like something had, like I hit something. I mean, not like ow, 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 but it just felt like I could actually feel like the side kind of ache. And that's actually what kind of brought my memory back of crashing into the side, because it's like, what did I feel here? What happened? Have
the memories of those experiences faded over time, or are they still as real today as when they happened?
No, they're still as real. and I have a bad memory, so that's kind of strange that I can actually, it's almost like I can pull the memory right back. So, and like I said, I don't have a very good memory, so it's kind of weird how they are still very strong. So it's almost like I can jump back there. So,
have you had any other types of paranormal experiences?
Oh, well, which time? so many to count.
Which time and which type?
Yeah, exactly. No, I have had just so many paranormal experiences. I mean, it's almost like, how do you even start? But I do try to kind of want to have it like more positive. Like, okay, one thing that, I kind of want to share too is about, it's like ever since the NDEs too, it always felt like I was always protected, like from anything down here. And one night I went to a Bible study, and the roads were really bad. They were really icy because this is Wisconsin, and they were really bad. And I was driving, the kids and I were driving back, and there was a car that was actually in the ditch, halfway in the ditch. And then there was another car coming, and I was on pure ice. And there was no way that I was going to get between both cars. And all I did was just put my hands on the steering wheel, close my eyes, and embrace for the crash. That's all I could do. I couldn't stop. I couldn't, nothing. Next thing I know, I actually felt my van being picked up. And, felt my van being picked up. And then I felt the whole van just kind of go kabang down. And so I'm kind of like, what's going on? I even looked back to see what had happened, or did I smash into somebody, or, why didn't I hear impact, or what, but I mean, it's like, I know that night that I was being protected, because there's no way that I could have avoided that accident. I mean, that one car had the full lane and the other car had half, and my big van could have not got between there.
You didn't happen to see any beings or angels, did you?
Not at that time, but it felt like I was kind of in I don't know, I didn't see anything at the time, but I did feel being lifted, and then I felt the impact of the van coming back down on all four tires.
Interesting.
So, I was gonna say, but yeah, there's so many paranormal things. I grew up in a haunted house. I know we should probably keep vibration high, but I grew up in the haunted house, and we basically had like a poltergeist type being, and for whatever reason, this poltergeist always homed in on me. There was like 6 people in the family, but it would always home on me, and it would actually, when I was waking up, or I'd be sleeping, and then all of a sudden I could feel something actually choking me, and then I would sit there and start, saying Jesus, help me, and and then all of a sudden it would release. I'd jump up and I'd turn on the light. It was a really malevolent entity. But the thing is, our house was actually not haunted until we had bought these bunk beds from my mom's friend, and her house was actually haunted. And then when we brought them over to our house, then a lot of activity started happening. But I had actually lived with this thing choking me off and on for like 5-6 years of my life. And there's times that I do feel that it's actually followed me, because even to this day, I still cannot sleep with the light off. I always have to have a light on, otherwise I can feel it home in.
Have you had any UFO experience?
Oh yeah. Actually, speaking of that, one experience that I had with the UFO thing was when I had seen heaven, I had actually seen people and alien beings, the gray aliens. They were actually sitting side by side, and there was they were waiting for a person to come out and speak at the podium. But I mean, it kind of, I don't know if you'd relate, but like with the Green Bay Packers, they have this big old stadium around, and that's actually what I had seen in heaven. But people and these gray aliens were actually sitting side by side, interacting, fully comfortable with each other. And I thought, that's kind of strange, because if you would actually have an alien come down here at this point, I think we'd be going out the door if they came in the house, or, what I mean? I was just kind of blown away when I seen that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that was during your NDE?
I'm thinking so. I can't remember. It's like I remember fragments of the NDE, though. It's not like I can remember, I can't remember, like, minute by minute or whatever. But I kept getting like these flood of memories coming back. And it'd be like one memory and two, what I mean? It would just, they would return, I guess, when I was ready to deal with it.
Well, outside of your NDE, have you seen UFO ships in the air?
Yeah, we lived by the river, and they say that with the aliens actually follow the rivers, and we'd actually see a lot of alien activity, or UFO activity. And my mom was driving to a friend of hers house, and there was actually a UFO hovering over the top of the bridge. And my mom was out. She'd always look up in the skies. She was fascinated by aliens and UFOs. And she was looking up. And this time, though, this UFO, you could actually see the windows on this thing, and you could actually see the shapes of these entities, or not entities, but these aliens inside the windows. Well, she was completely freaked out, chomped on the gas. We got by her friend Sandy's house, and she was talking a mile a minute, and it was even like a school night, and she said, "I'm not leaving the house until your dad gets back." So we ended up staying by Sandy till like 11 o'clock at night. But yeah, we would constantly see UFOs, and like I said, that one really scared her because that one was really close.
I've had other guests before say that they saw aliens during their NDE.
Oh, there was another thing too. That I was laying in bed, and I don't know. When I think about it, I don't think it was a spirit. I don't think it was. I mean, it could have been from heaven. I don't know, but there was this being, and she was just like radiated, like you could see the frame of her body, but she just completely radiated with light. It was just like so bright, and then she had these like big, beautiful eyes. And I could see her mouth. I could see part of her mouth, but I couldn't see anything else because it was just so bright. And she came to me, and I pretty much could actually see her in my mind. And then she kind of scared me, though, and I pled the blood of Jesus over me because, when I encounter entities, I don't know if they're good and I don't know if they're bad. So then I'm always trying to protect myself. And so she started to kind of giggle or snicker or whatever, and she's like, "There's no need for that," she said, but she said, "You need to get your children right with God because the time is short." Well, and it was like home, and she was right. My children were not right with God, and ever since then I kept saying, you guys really need to get on board because, she's telling me there's something going on. So and the thing is with me, I've seen Jesus, I've seen God, just never seen his face. But I know they're real. I know I've seen all this, and it's like I want my children to be taken care of here and on the other side. When our time comes.
What is the most shocking or impactful thing you've seen during your mediumship?
It might be a little lengthy. Because we moved here. Or, we moved to this place, and 2 years prior to us moving here, there was a girl that was killed, and her body was dumped down the road from here. And I didn't know, I never knew her in life. I didn't know anything that happened to her. We were living, 20 miles away or whatever at the time, and we didn't get to the Shawano News or anything. And but like I said, this was 2 years prior. Well, my daughter and I went on a walk down that road, and then we were coming back. And then all of a sudden I started, just as we were walking, all of a sudden I felt really angry, and it was like it almost felt like something tried to take me over. And, I was, bringing on Jesus again because I didn't know what was happening. And then that night, I had started seeing visions, basically, of how this girl was killed, where she was killed and who had actually killed her. And, and then, and then she had actually told me to go to the police about it. And I thought, this ain't going to work. I don't know who you are. I don't know anything. I got to have something to bring to the physical world. And but I kind of try to blow it off and try to function and do my thing. The only thing is I would come home and I'd get to the front door and I could see her standing there. And I'm like, ugh, I can't help you. I don't, I'm not going to the police because they're going to think I'm crazy with this. And then I was sitting at the kitchen table and I could see her standing outside the kitchen table. I went outside one day and I was laying on the blanket trying to soak up some sun, and I felt something scratch me. And so it was like she was very angry. And then my second sister came over and she was like, well, okay, let's go sit by the picnic table. And I'm like, let's not, because if I go out there, something's out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to deal with this right now. And then I was telling my sister about it, and then my daughter, and then my daughter was being kind of negative about it, like they're gonna think you're crazy. And then my husband's like, well, you gotta have more to tell the police than what this girl was telling you. But she hung around me for like a good year, and like I said, I would not even go on that side of the house or anything like that. And finally, it was just like out of the blue, I approached the police officer. I told him, I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but, this is what happened. There's a spirit that's been hanging around that, she was dumped over here and, way before we got here. And then they brought me in the interrogation room. And and then I ended up doing a reading on the female police officer. I picked up her uncle. And then she wanted me to pick up, and then I told them the story about this girl that was killed. And then she wanted me to pick up another girl that was missing. And I started focusing on the picture because a lot of times, for whatever reason, I'm pretty strong with pictures. I can start feeling energy and things like that. And just as I focused on the picture, because I'm a trance medium, because sometimes it'll actually, because like my husband and my daughter would always say, I go in the zone. You go in the zone when you're doing readings, or, if it's spiritually strong. And I never understood what they were talking about because, I can't see myself from the outside, I just know that I get more excited or talk more or whatever. So, but anyway, so I was talking to this police officer and all of a sudden when I was trying to zoom in on that picture it was like a missing picture. And I was talking to her, and then she had said something to me. Next thing I know, I just said, uh-huh. I leaned forward, my head went to the left, and I dropped my head, and then I started channeling this girl that, has been missing for 20 some years. So basically, I don't know, I turned into the psychic hour, or, it went from, I'm in a police room, I'm doing readings, I'm talking about this person that, that lived next to me, and I'm, talking about this other person that went missing. It was really weird. And then now the police officer and I are friends on Facebook. So, but what's kind of weird though with this girl that got dumped over here though, after I told the police about what had happened, because she wanted me to, she's left me alone ever since. I've not seen her in the front, in the back, nothing. So I did what she wanted me to do.
That's good. Do you have any other paranormal stories you can share with us?
Like I said, so many things have happened to me throughout my whole life. And there's tons of them. Just sometimes when when you want to try to pull them up, you can't always, do it. One thing though, another thing that happened to me too with this NDE thing, I was back into, I don't know if I was back down, lower than me or where I actually was, but I seen this group of people, and then I had actually seen Jesus walking, past them, and they looked all dark. Their energy was dark. Everything was all dark. Excuse me. And then I had their energy was dark and they were dark. And then, but there was me and like two other girls that actually recognized him, and we recognized it was Jesus. And it was like Jesus had basically come down to try to see how many people still believed in him. So it was just really weird, you know.
Do you think that in that lower level, people there are vibrating at a lower frequency?
They scare me, actually. At a lower level, yeah. They actually kind of scare me, because it's just like, you know, when my spirit guide, you know, told me to tone it down, tone my light down, you know, and then all of a sudden I seen one face to face with me, and then I got really kind of scared. So, but actually I did have another thing as far as the medium thing. There was about an hour and a half from us, or hour from us, there was this young kid that had went missing. I don't know that area whatsoever, because I mainly stayed where I am. You know, I have not really moved around Wisconsin a whole lot. But anyways, he had went missing, and his parents couldn't find him. He was just a young college kid, and so then. But the thing is, I have a friend that's like down in the Madison area, and her kids actually went to school with this kid, and they did like a 36-hour search, and they actually had to call off. Well, they called off the search because they only got so much money and so much manpower. And this friend of mine, her name is Lindsay, and she says, Kathy, she said, you're a medium. And you know, I didn't know that I could actually pick up missing people. And she said, Kathy, she says, you're a medium. She says, see if you can try to pick up where this kid is or something. And I told Lindsay, I said, I'm not sure I can do it, but I said, okay, well, send me a picture or email on the, you know, on the computer, and let me see what I can do. Well, anyway, so I had actually focused on the picture, and images start coming to me. Of course, like, you know, I could tell he wasn't alive anymore because of his energy. If you're passed on, your energy is actually different, and the longer you're passed on, the less energy your picture has. And I'm not sure why I got the picture reading gift, but I do. But anyways, so I saw images that he was by the water. He was by a straight row of round lights, and he was by the city was actually behind him. And so then Lindsay told me, she said, and like I said, mind you, this is 36 hours after or they had to call this off, 36 hours of looking. And then Lindsay had put me on a three-way. She put me on I went to the dispatcher. Of course, the dispatcher kind of, yeah, right, you know, another strange one. And then they put me into the sergeant. His name was Sergeant Wheeler. And so Lindsay and I and Sergeant Wheeler were talking, and I was telling Sergeant Wheeler what I had seen. I said, I see this straight row of round white lights. And then I said, I see him next to the river. And then he said, do you feel that this individual's in the river? I said, I have no idea. I said, I can see him standing next to the river. I said, he's highly intoxicated too. And excuse me. And then he said, do you feel this person's deceased? And I said, yeah, I'm not getting anything off his picture. And then, but anyways, I called Lindsay at like 12:30 that day, talked to the dispatcher, and then Lindsay sent me to the Sergeant Wheeler. And at 1:15 that day, they pulled his body out of the water.
Wow.
Yeah, but this is after they called off the search. But basically, the sergeant had went to where I said, because I guess they pulled his body out of the water by a bridge, underneath the bridge or something like that. And but they were looking, I believe, in the city for him, and they said the city's actually behind him. He's not in the city. So, but anyways, and I call Lindsay, and I'm like, my knees are just shaking. I can't believe that the gift can work this way. Mm-hmm. So, I keep kind of finding out different, like people keep pulling me into actually finding out, all these little goodies of the gift, because with my husband, I didn't know I could remote view, until he brought that up. And then with Lindsay, I didn't know I could zoom in on pictures until she brought me into there. And so it seems like, I'm finding out a lot of cool things.
Sounds like they should give you a badge over there.
Right. Well, that thing, Lindsay was upset. She's just like, well, you're the one that actually found him. Why didn't you get any credit? And I'm just like, I'd rather not do that, Lindsay. But in the paper, it did say that new information led them to finding his body. And I'm guessing I'm the new information.
Can you tell us about how you got in touch with your spirit guide?
I'm always thinking I got a new one. because the thing is, the spirit guide, well, because it was like a voice always in my head to, like nag a lot. But I mean, he seemed like kind of like a grumpy old man. But I mean, I get it. I mean, I don't listen. I'm stubborn. You know what I mean? And I argue a lot. So I mean, and those are my good points. So, but anyways, so I don't know. Now I'm actually seeing a younger spirit guide. So, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if my old one decided to quit or I don't know. But yeah, your spirit guide is just like always a voice. For me, it's always a voice, and it sounds similar to mine, but I could tell it's like male energy. And it's always, if it wants me to do things, it'll nag, nag, nag. So, but that is the best way I work, is kind of getting nagged at, because sometimes I got motivation issues, but yeah, or sometimes if I'm going to do something and it's not a good thing, I'll hear like no really loud in my head. And I'm like, okay, then I won't. And so, but yeah, but I don't know. Like I said, I keep seeing a younger male. But I mean, they do say that you can have up to like 2 or 3, a couple different spirit guides. So, but yeah, I mean, I hear them a lot. I mean, it almost seems like there's not even a day that goes by that I don't have something spiritual, something kind of paranormal, something. It just seems like my whole life is around spirit activity. So, I can't, like one time I was going for my CNA license, and speaking of spirit activity, I was going in for my CNA license, and I did my clinicals, and I get in the car, and just I get in the car, there I could actually see a female spirit jump in my back seat. Well, of course, through my mirror, and then I could feel her. Well, then I got really scared, and then I started speeding, and I'm like, there's a spirit. I'm like, God, holy crap, what do I do? And I'm speeding, and then I thought to myself, she's in my car. What is speed going to do? So then, of course, I started, pleading, started bringing, my faith into it to protect me and things like that. But, yeah, I mean, I can see spirits like that. So like every day there's some kind of spirit activity or spirit strangeness. Like one time, because I have a camper and I like to renovate my camper, and I was driving to my camper, and then there, all of a sudden, my whole head, it was just kind of like warning bells just screaming, like, don't go in there, don't go in there, don't go in there. And then I turned in, and then I was trying to get what I do to do what I had to do. And then I kept feeling jumpy and like, oh, something is wrong, and da da da. And then my husband, and then I kept looking to the woods, and so there was definitely like something watching me from the woods. And and then I'd asked my police officer friend, I said, was anybody killed there, or what's going on over there, or why am I picking this out? But every day I've got some kind of spiritual thing going on, so it's weird. It's not just I tap into it. It's just, it surrounds me, But yeah, like I said, I don't think I can get away with it. Get away from it. And then another thing too, like with my daughter, like say when I do readings, I kind of do that truth to Caputo, where like if I, she'll go into, if she's in somewhere, then all of a sudden the spirit will move her to do a reading on a person. Well, I kind of do that too. And then, when my daughter gets upset because she's like, can't I just have one day where you don't do that? So, because she's like, because we went to like a Fox River Mall or something in Appleton. And then I was talking to a girl in this Earthbound place. It's a store. And then I ended up doing a reading on a cashier. And then she's like, can you stop that? So, so it's not always light and love and da da da. I mean, there's a whole world going on up and above us, below us, around us. And
I only have a few minutes left. Do you have a website or a book or something that you would like to talk about?
Well, I got kind of a crazy life. I take care of my daughter and my husband, so been always busy. But I do kind of want to do a book. But but I just gotta get to it. And
Right.
but actually, there was one thing that was kind of crazy, kind of different. I should stop saying crazy, but because I should be used to this. But there was this a week before my husband had to go to Iron Mountain, Michigan. Excuse me. I heard my spirit guide tell me that I'm going to meet another medium. I'm like, okay, cool, And so we get to Iron Mountain, and there was a guy. He was sitting there talking. His name was Clarence Thibodeau. And we were sitting there, or he was talking to some other people, and he was talking about how he could actually find dead children, or children that were dead and stuff. And the guy that was sitting next to him, he started laughing, and he got up and he moved. He's like, man, there's something wrong with this guy, And and I felt really bad for him, but he was an older veteran, and he was living in the home, and I just felt drawn to him. So then I went over by him and I started talking to him, and I told him, I said, I have a gift too. And we were talking back and forth. And then even though he actually wrote a book, he has done paintings. And then he was talking about his life when he was with his, I guess, one and only wife. But anyways, they lived in Mexico or something like that. They had, it was kind of like a fancy name for the house they had. And anyways, even though he actually had the gift, like before his ship got hit or something, he actually, called out the signal, the ship's going to get hit, and then they were trying to find out how he knew that and things like that. But anyways, he was trying to say, he told me, he said, well, my wife and I, we went to the reading with the medium, and his wife was like 20 years older than him. And even though they both had wedding rings on, the medium had said something about that they're not going to get married or something. And here they already had wedding rings on. And then, we were talking, and then I asked him about his wife. I said, I see this lady that she has a lot of rings covering her fingers. And he said, that what my wife did. I said, this lady looked very elegant and, very beautiful. And then I described, she had the dark hair and different things like that. And then I picked up her son and was describing him too. And he's, he kind of sat there and he put his hands like this. And, because he was like kind of getting into the reading too. And he's like, he goes, they really do exist. So if I do a book, that's my cover. That's what I'm going to be. That's my title. Yes, we do exist.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and chit chat with you. Are you open to that? And if so, how can they reach you?
My email is King Katherine 420 at Gmail, or not Gmail. Gmail.com. Okay, it was Yahoo, but I changed that. But it's King Katherine 420 at gmail.com.
Do you give professional readings? And if so, if somebody wants one, can they contact you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I could try. The only thing is, for me, it's actually kind of easier when you're kind of like in the same room. You know what I mean? Or holding something of theirs or something like that. That seems to help out better. I mean, I think part of it too is like I'm not real good with technology,
Right.
And sometimes it's you don't have the energy. You know what I mean? Like it's it's different when you're actually in person or. So I mean, I am on a medium site and I do get requests a lot, but. I mean, like there's times like over the site, I'll pick up like some girl posted a picture of her boyfriend or something. I shared that with you. And, I was picking up the son, the guy, and that he was goofing off right before the accident. And she confirmed that and things like that. But I don't know. I guess for me, I just kind of want to keep it local, do my own thing. I mean, I'm.
Okay.
So. Like, I feel better like one-on-one. One question that people always ask me is, how do you deal with psychic children?
Mm-hmm.
These children are always scared, and they're seeing spirits, things like that. One way that you actually can deal with the children, with the spirits, for one, never fear them, because the spirits, if they're dark, they'll actually draw off that fear. Number two, if that child tells you something, believe them. because when you believe them, that, you know, because I mean, these children know that they saw these things because they're fresh from the other side. So, you know, so it, you know, I mean, like if they tell you something, believe them, because if you don't believe them, that's actually going to hurt their feelings. Or, you know, if they do have spiritual gifts, it actually closes that door for them to actually be able to experience, you know, a lot of spirit activity. Or, well, I mean, you don't really want them to have a lot of dark spirit activity, but I'm just saying, like, you know, when you try to close that door, because like with me, when I was young, I went to a priest, and he told me that I can't talk to anybody else but God, and because every other spirit is dark. Well, when you have a gift like this, it just about drove me over the edge, because I'm just like, okay, if I can't talk to God, then why are, you know, like, how do I handle all these spirits coming at me, talking to me, you know? And when you keep trying to shut the doors, that's even more difficult. And it actually caused a lot of problems with me when we were in the military, because I would try to somewhat self-isolate because I could see these spirits around other people. And then finally my husband's like, man, you've got to face this. He said, you know, you can't keep running in the house the minute you see somebody, you know, a spirit around somebody. He said, you need to start actually talking, you know, telling these guys, hey, I do see a spirit. This is what they're saying. And then it kind of opened my world. It actually lowered a lot of my anxiety problems. You know, you know, I mean, it lowered a lot of my anxiety. You know, it started turning into a positive experience for them and for me, because, and like I said, I mean, it turned my world around. But like I said, you always have to, you know, try to have them face it, use faith or whatever they can do. I know some people get mad if you say faith, but I mean, whatever they believe in to try to protect themselves. And like I said, believe them.
Catherine, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
This world is definitely not all there is. You know, we do have a loving God, and we do have like a layer of angels and Jesus and spirit guides. You know, this world is not all there is. I mean, there's so much activity still going on way above us. So, I mean, anytime you need any help, you know, give them a call. There's many of them up there that would actually help you if you need help.
Well, thank you for that message, Catherine, and thank you again for being our guest. I really appreciate you, and I wish you a great rest of your weekend.
All right, you too. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.